Hogstye.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Hogstye. It is your host Alex. I got Steve and I got Dave. We've got a lot to talk about, so we're not going to do any pleasantries or talk about any nonsense or the weather.
How was the weather today?
Cold. It's always cold. And I was on a 12-story building briefly on the top of it in the cold by the river, so that was fun. But we're not going to talk about that.
I could talk all day about nonsense, Alex. You know that.
Yeah,
I might not let you move on.
Oh, there's some nonsense I got to talk to you about.
Intrigued.
Other nonsense at some point, but
Is this
we'll
off
talk about
the air
it later.
nonsense?
Yes, off-air nonsense.
Oh, okay.
Yes. But let's talk about that barn burner last Thursday night, guys. A whopper of a 12-7 game. Whoop-de-doo. That was the most action-packed fun I've had all week, all month.
I had the misfortune of wasting my time logging onto an illegal website to get the illegal stream of that game.
Right.
Out of loyalty to this show, primarily. And I was worse for the wear. I think that was the most collectively inept display of offensive stupidity that I've seen in a long time from both sides. Just totally inept, totally incapable, just the worst thing ever. It just god awful. May God help you rest your soul.
Oh, yeah. It's sad but true. So here's a fun fact. We all know Carson Wentz fractured his finger right around the midpoint of the game. It was, I think, 2 minutes left in the first half is when it happened. I went back and double checked. He actually was more accurate with a broken finger than he was without a broken finger. He was 5 for 10 before and 7 for 12 after. So,
I mean,
now that's a Steve Thomas stat right there.
It really is. It really is.
Yes.
And believe me, Dave, I would have had those if I had done what I did last year and every other year with all. You never saw my notes.
Yeah.
I think you knew I had them because you listened to the shows as a fan.
Right.
I had like 6 or 7 pages of handwritten notes for every game.
Well, you would hear it on the show, just page shuffle.
That's true. Occasionally I did hear that, yes.
Yeah.
That was me because I'm me. I write it all out instead of typing and.
Right. Or looking at like your phone or something where you would keep stuff.
No, I don't.
Right.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah, you would never do that.
The question is, did Carson Wentz pass for more than 100 yards?
No.
He didn't. No, not even gross yardage. He was 12 for 22 for 99 yards. The net yardage was 86.
Yeah. It was not a good day.
Quarterback rating 66. Yeah, look, it was nobody deserved to win that game. It was just a game in which 2 bad teams got together, and the one that made the least horrible mistakes won. That's as simple as that. It's a I don't know if there's anything to celebrate from a Washington perspective on this film. They really did a lot wrong. There's only 2 or 3 teams in the league that would have lost that game, and the Bears were one of them.
Yeah. And we don't want to focus on this game too much.
No. There's not much to say at this point.
No, there really isn't. I guess you could say, hey, the defense played well against a bad team, so yay that. Yeah.
I mean, it's like being king of the fools, so
right. It really is. Yeah.
But I'll give you an idea. I'll give you an idea on how much into the game I was. I woke up in the third quarter when Chicago scored the touchdown. I had to rewind my TV to actually see the play.
I texted you guys
and bad that was.
And said, "Good God, this is a boring game." And Dave's response was, "I fell asleep."
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? That's the first time in a long time I can even remember I actually fell asleep watching a Washington game.
Well, and it doesn't help that this has been the second or third really bad Thursday night game in a row.
Yeah.
Like it's not been a good trend for the NFL.
There have been games when I've been noodling with guitars instead of watching. That's happened. But yeah, this one was pretty boring. But here's the big trivia question, because this is always my favorite. It's and I've got a good one this time. Everybody knows, obviously, Tressway out-punted the offense. That's not even a question to ask.
He probably did it on, 2 punts.
Well, he was – I can't say the yardage. Here's the question. Yeah. Was the collective punting yardage from both teams more than 500 yards? Did they collectively have more than 500 punting yards?
That's a tough one. I'm going to say yes, because I don't think you would ask this trivia question if it wasn't.
Actually, I'm going to say they came up just short. I think you
Just
picked
short.
the number was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
over
Steve's
that.
nodding his head. Yeah, I guess so.
That's Dave's got it right. Yeah, they had 492 yards.
Oh, just that much.
Tress, for his part, was 6 for 307, and Trenton Gill, the other Chicago punter, didn't hold up his end. He was only 4 for 185.
No, slacker. What a slacker.
Exactly, slacker. That's really is. It's slacker.
He didn't even outpunt their quarterback. You know, like
he
really
didn't. I know he really didn't. No.
Yeah.
Well, in net yardage he did, but gross yardage he didn't. No.
Right. All right, so we want to move on to other things. Let's do game balls really quick.
Because we can't not do game balls.
And I got to write them down. So I'm going to go first. Jonathan Allen, you now lead the team in interceptions. Congratulations, you get a game ball.
That's a good one.
And on offense, I'm going to go with the refs, actually, for this one, because that first scoring drive, they were 0 for 0 passing, but the refs gave them all the yardage they needed to get to field goal range. So the referees get a game ball.
I love it, man. That's good.
Well, I'm going to go with Justin Fields only because I feel bad that I missed his beautiful 40-yard touchdown pass. That's about the only highlight. Yeah, it was a nice pass. Probably the only real true offensive highlight in the entire game that I can recall. So I'll go Justin Fields. And I will actually go with Benjamin St. Juste in the final play of the game against Darnell Mooney. That was a nice play he had to break that up. Even though, what was that play before where Justin Fields had made if he would have made a proper read, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. They would have had a touchdown, but that's just Justin Fields. But either way, they were given the opportunity. Justin Fields St. Juste capitalized, and I'll give him a game ball for it. How about that?
That's good. I like it. Offense, I'm going Tress Way. The punter. I mean,
the guy I have a jersey from now. Yes.
You have a jersey, a Tress Way jersey?
Yes, yeah, I saw that.
You yelled at me for wearing it the other day. I got it right here.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh, see, you cracked and bought a stupid C-word jersey.
But at least it's Tress Way.
Yeah, that's true. And anyway, so anytime you punt for more than 300 yards, I mean, you deserve some recognition, and nobody else did a damn thing. So I'm going Tress Way, and I'm going F.A. Obada. I really wanted to give some Bears, some game ball up, but nobody in the Bears did anything worthy either. So F.A. Obada had 3 quarterback hits, and he's the type of guy who never gets any recognition.
No.
So I'm going Tress Way and F.A. Obada.
In actuality, F.A. Obada is actually having a better year than what Tim Settle's having for Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, because Tim Settle has like 0 sacks. F.A. Obada, I think, has 2. I think on the year.
I believe that might be right. Yeah, he had 1 in this Bears game. And to answer Alex's question, no, David Bada got cut.
Oh, David Bada. So we'll never have a Obada sack. It's a shame.
We just need to have a Bada O'Reilly, and we'd be really good.
Yeah. There's a good one. All right, why don't we move on from that headache of a game? And
there's not much to say. We'd go on and on about it, but
no, there's more important things to talk about because oh boy, this owners meeting thing is going on right now. I want to talk about that first. Honestly, we'll talk about the Packers in the end. Don't care that much.
We'll get there. Don't worry.
Right.
Jimmy Irsay, little Jimmy Irsay, who has nothing to lose and has come to the owners meeting to pick a fight with little Danny Snyder. And boy, did he say something in public that you never would expect it to come from any of the owners.
Well, first of all, I think Irsay would beat the hell out of Snyder in a fight. I mean, Irsay's hopped up on fentanyl or something.
Right.
So, I mean, he's going to – Snyder, for all his faults, probably just sticks to coke, would be my guess, with the hookers.
Sure.
But please credentials for training camp. But Irsay's on –
I can feel it coming.
But I think, Dan, it's just an every once in a while thing. But Irsay, he's like a regular. He's hitting it all the time. So I think he would beat Danny down in a fight. Plus, everybody's taller than Dan. So.
Well, did you ever see Bad Santa? There's a great line in Bad Santa where he's teaching this little kid how to fight. He's like, I'm I'm not a good fighter, but I'm good in a fight because I'm a drunk and I can't feel anything. And that's what Irsay probably
Yeah, exactly.
is.
You're hopped up
Yep.
on, on drugs, and
Yeah.
you're drunk, so you can't feel anything. And Dan probably isn't, because unless he has hookers around him, he's not high. So I mean,
And
I
I
think
bet you
Irsay would
Dan
win.
never had a fight a day in his life to begin with anyway.
That is 100% true. So look,
Yeah.
in all seriousness, and obviously I'm kidding about it, Dan Snyder taking drugs, don't sue us. Or if you do, take it. It's fine. What are you gonna get from me? Nothing. But so what Jim Irsay said, this was in the lobby, and Dave, thanks for sending the video around. But what Irsay said in the lobby of the hotel in New York was that the owners ought to consider voting Snyder out.
Yes.
And it is pretty rich coming from Jim Irsay, who's a total sleazeball lunatic in his own right. We're kidding about him, but he really is.
Yeah.
But
Well,
nothing
look.
became of it,
Mhm.
and that was kind of it. And Snyder sent a nasty grammar out, in response, and that was it. And everybody moved on.
Well, Jim Irsay basically said, and in a way, he is the perfect guy to, do this publicly, because, and Dave, you and I were talking about this. Yeah, he has plenty of skeletons, but they're not in the closet. None of these skeletons are in the closet at all. I believe I said
right.
they're all having an orgy outside the closet,
Yes.
right now.
Perfect analogy. Yeah.
What does Jim Irsay have to lose? I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he has nothing to lose, and again, he could beat Dan up. So he's the perfect guy for this.
Yes. It's just like how someone had made a comment that I responded to is of all people, why does Irsay think he has any position or right or authority to say anything because of the things he's done? Well, see, the one key difference between Irsay and Dan, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but when Irsay had the fines levied against him and so forth for everything that he had done, he took accountability for that. He didn't really push back that much. I mean, yeah, he had a little pushback, I guess, but all in all, he accepted responsibility. He moved forward, took the suspension, and he didn't try to push that blame to anybody else. Whereas opposed to Snyder, everything and anything that's pointed on to him, it was somebody else's fault. Even though he's the man in charge, he's the one that oversees everything, but it's everybody else's fault. It's kind of grasping at straws, as you like to say, Steve, but it's significant enough to where if Irsay can say that maybe some of the other owners would be like, you know what, he's right. Because even Irsay later came out and explained that, we have to let everyone know that I'm paraphrasing, that they're not above the law, as in terms of they have to be held accountable for their own actions. They just can't allow it to be brushed off or pushed under the rug and so forth, and I think that's a pretty significant message. Unfortunately, it had to come from a guy like Irsay, but I think there's a little bit of a significance there. I think we can draw from that, at least, I think.
For those of you who don't remember, what we're talking about with Jim Irsay is he was arrested in March of 2014 on suspicion of DUI and drug possession in Indiana. And then a media report from a guy named Bob Kravitz. I'm getting this out of Wikipedia, but I mean the sources, the references check out.
Quick reference, yes.
Yeah, you're right. The article there said he had an ongoing drug problem, and then he had a mistress who died of a drug overdose. So he was a total train wreck. And if you're a Colts fan, you know that he's constantly tweeting out insane garbage. At least he was for long. I don't know if he's doing it anymore, but he was for a long time. And so the NFL suspended him for 6 games, fined him $500,000, which is like he has to skip McDonald's one day, for a billionaire. So that's that. But look, I think you guys are giving Jim Irsay too much credit. This dude is not a planner, okay? He's not a strategic planner. I think it's just he probably just popped off in the middle of the lobby. And that was it. I don't think it's like the owner said, let's nominate the biggest train wreck in the room to go out and throw this trial balloon to the media. And Jim Irsay, everybody looks at Irsay, I think that's giving it way too much credit. I think this is just a case of him just mouthing off because he does it all the time.
I mean, I do think he is a bit of a loose cannon in that respect. You're right about that. But, comparing his issues with Dan, do you know what the one key thing that the key thing to me, everything happened outside the team with Irsay.
Right.
First, these are personal problems.
Right.
And I do have some, and we joke about it, but I do have sympathy for people who are drug addicts because
Right. And he's got like a
the,
depression problem, right? Like
there's all kinds of problems, and it's not. I mean, certainly you need to take responsibility, but there's other factors at work and everything. Dan's problems is he's just a horrible person and a terrible businessman. But I just don't think that anybody's thinking through this much. I really just think it's Irsay walking around and, hey, what about Dan Snyder? Oh yeah, we should vote him out. And I think that's all it is.
Yeah.
Well, now, sure, you're not wrong about that, and I get that, but I think also it's what's perceived to the rest of the owners in terms of, well, if he can come out and he can say that, the ones who want to say something, if Irsay can say it, I can say it. Maybe someone else is going to come out and say something eventually. Next thing you know, maybe you start getting a little bit of it. See, right now I'm just tired of, well, we could have enough votes. We could get this. We could get that. I don't care about the what we could anymore. I'm just actually happy I heard one of the owners at least say something for once.
Well, what was noticeable, Dave, is that 30 other dudes didn't correct him at all. Nobody said a word.
Absolutely.
Well, yep. Just to be clear on, what has and hasn't been said, Jerry Jones was asked about it, and he said something along the lines of, I don't think it's as big of a thing. I think it's more of a media thing or something like that. And then Roger Goodell came out more or less after everything and said, we're not really going to have a vote until after the investigations are done.
Well, I knew Roger said that. So Jerry was the one that kind of walked it back a little bit then. I hadn't seen that.
He actually said that, I believe, before Irsay.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
So what you could have done is sent like somebody like Bob Kraft or somebody out there and gone, certainly Jim's entitled to his opinion. We have to think through a bunch of issues, and certainly there's a lot to consider with Mr. Snyder. They could have given some BS answer like that somebody like me would write, but nobody did.
And as far as Jerry Jones, I think it's a little more self-preservation on his part because,
true.
I mean, he had his reported scandals that we heard were almost pretty similar to Snyder's and himself. So it's like, if you open up that door at Pandora's box in the Snyder, I mean, he's thinking, well, what makes you think that's not going to happen to me? Although I think he's pretty much untouchable to begin with anyway.
Jerry's much smarter than Dan is when it comes to that.
That's true, yes.
He's smarter about that.
But I think there's a certain level of self-preservation in his comments on that one.
By the way, I wrote 2,000 words on all this on Monday. So if anybody wants to read it, please do, because it was 2,000 words.
Right. And it just flowed out of you like water out of a river.
No, it wasn't emotional. No, this one wasn't like I'm over the emotion of the team, as you guys know. It was just a breakdown of everything that's happened recently with the owners. So.
And for those who don't know what Dave's referring to, there was a very recent allegation against Jerry that just came out. I believe, was it Friday or something? I feel like it was a news dump day. That there
was something on Friday. I think that just more or less went on to the news in the off season that broke out. That kind of just spoke back to that, I think.
Yeah.
So, he's also had multiple bimbo eruptions, though. I mean, it's not. And I mean, he's had accusations of things with the cheerleaders, not against him in particular, but in the building. There's video of him drunk in bars talking to people he shouldn't talk to. There was at least one allegation that he did something to somebody. I mean, and all that stuff goes away because he's like the Godfather when it comes to the NFL and just goes away.
Well, he does make them a ton of money, and that's what matters.
Yes. So do you guys think this is going to amount to anything? That's what I want to know. Well, that's what really matters to the fans is what do we think personally. For me, what I said in my piece from Monday was that, I mean, it's hard to say, but I tend to doubt it right now. I just don't think there's enough out there that's new that would cause the owners to act. And I think that a lot of them are afraid of their own shadow, not necessarily just from Dan Snyder specifically, but just generally. If it happened to Dan, it can happen to me. And so I think if Dan kind of makes it right one way or the other financially, I think he's probably going to be okay. I might be wrong, but that's sort of the way I'm kind of leaning.
So my thing is, I think they're definitely obviously hedging their bets, waiting for this report to come out and see what's up. I think if there's something in there, if there's some truth to the, two sets of books rumor and that he's been skimming money from the other owners, I think then they'll feel like they have the cover they need. I do think that there's 24 of them who want him out. I think there's probably close to 30 who want him out. Maybe not Jerry and maybe not one or two other random owners who somehow get along with Dan Snyder. But, Steve, you know this, from the IJB side of, talking about the league. These owners have factions. And, like Jerry's got a wing that Dan's in. There's the Rob Kraft wing. I don't know. We don't know all of the factions necessarily.
Jerry doesn't have a wing. Jerry's the boss.
Right. Exactly.
Really and truly,
he's the big money guy in the end.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. But when it comes to those different factions, I don't think he necessarily has the most guys.
Well, there's
who
kind of
like
the
him.
in crowd. What there really is sort of the in crowd, and then the nerds.
Right.
If you go back to high school, the in crowd is some of the old money families.
Yeah.
Throw Jerry in there, throw Bob Kraft in there. The guys in Kansas City whose name's escaping me. Yeah, thank you, the Hunt.
The Irsays are a multi-generation family too now.
Yeah,
aren't
they are, but he's
Yeah.
a train wreck, and the Bidwells
Yeah.
are a train wreck too, but they are well liked amongst the owner group. That's kind of the group, and then the Giants, the Maras, and the Steelers.
The Roonies.
That's the in crowd.
Yeah. I think it'll all come down to if they see, oh, Dan's been skimming money from us. All right, he's done.
Maybe. What do you think,
Yeah.
Dave?
Well, unless they come out with some sort of a smoking gun of like him on video or a picture of him actually doing something to one of these women, or something. So if someone has a recording of him speaking out of line to a woman, or like you guys alluded to before, if he had used any kind of racial slurs of any sort, like the N-word or whatever. Unless you have something like that, it just all comes down to money. They can prove that he has those two books and he skimmed enough money off the top. That's about the only way anything's going to happen. That's why I kind of get tired with all the reports on. It's like, oh, well, here's another report. I get what Sally Jenkins always keeps trying to write about what's going on and what her end game is. There's another woman on there always has a hashtag a release report. I can't think of her name off the top of my head. It's just.
Are you thinking of one of the plaintiffs who's always online?
Yes.
Megan something.
Megan, yes, thank you. I get their push, and every little bit of news that comes out, well, it's just something else. It's not that it's something else. They just keep talking about the same thing. There's nothing really new that comes out. There's nothing, it's just like what you always keep saying, Steve. It's not about proving innocence here. You have to prove that guilt. If you can't prove the guilt,
well,
there's nothing you can do.
In terms of the business stuff, unless the revenue issue is really worse than it seems, Snyder could walk all that back, and he could he could go and say, whoops, we screwed our books up, and sorry, and here's the money, and and he could probably get away with that. To me, after studying all this last week and write that column, the bigger problem does seem to be the stadium for him.
That's a huge problem in the end. Yeah.
It is because, Washington's already losing a ton of revenue compared to other teams. Say they're 31st, I think. It floats between last and dead last between Washington and a couple other teams. But he just can't. From someone who, I've said it last week, from someone who does commercial real estate for a living, sometimes these deals just die. A bunch of things start to go wrong. Yeah, go ahead.
Now here's a question for you. If he's unable to get a stadium deal anywhere, do you think that's kind of enough for owners to say, well, listen, it's either, they'll either push to move him out, or maybe they'll say, hey, listen, we're going to force you to London or something, move the team or whatever. What do you think that could ultimately end up?
I don't think they would. I wouldn't advise them to move him to London because they want a decent representative and a charismatic representative. if they're going to form the first European team. So I don't think that's a great option for him.
Sure.
The stadium is kind of a backwards way for them to get rid of him, really. If he just can't get it done,
Mm-hmm.
And it's just impossible because he's so toxic that no government will work for him. And by the way, I mean, I said it last week, but where can he move the team? Who wants to work with him? Nobody.
Right.
He's just absolutely toxic. So I think that is a problem because the revenue is way down. It's going to be down. They're on a dump. It's the worst stadium in the league, or one of the worst, bottom. But the other thing, the interesting kind of indirect way to get rid of him is this. There's two ways. One, the NFL always kicks in a couple $100 million for these stadium deals, and they don't necessarily have to do that. They just do it. And when Dan's already hurting for money for a stadium, that could be important. So the NFL could say no to that. And the other thing that they could do is there's a debt limit for owners, okay? So the reason why there's a debt limit is they don't want a bank to go foreclose on NFL assets. So they want to keep the debt low enough that if worst came to worst, that problem could be solved pretty easily because they don't want like Bank of America all of a sudden owning like the Chicago Bears or something, or significant assets. And so the NFL could just refuse to further increase the debt limit for Snyder. And at that point, he'd be stuck. Because here's how these deals work. Even like if you're to pick a name, Jeff Bezos, even Jeff Bezos doesn't just write $1 billion check to build stuff, okay? All of it's finance, and how it works,
Right.
no matter who's doing it, it's finance, with very rare exception. I mean, never say never. But what you do is you have a major cash equity injection that the owner developer puts in, and then you finance the rest of it, and it's finance for construction period, and then it transitions to a 30-year loan afterwards, okay? And so he'd have to borrow. If they don't get money from the NFL and they don't get money from a state, it was going to be $800 million from Virginia. That's $1 billion right there. That's most of it for a small stadium project already. Wouldn't have to finance very much. You throw in a couple $100 million that he has to contribute, you're financing $300 or $400 million, at the low end. But if he doesn't get any money, you know what the debt service on like $2 billion would be? It's way more than certainly the team revenues alone could bring in.
Sure.
So now you're talking about income from the development around it, and you have to be. People don't just build things like major commercial shopping centers. You have to have expertise in that, and he doesn't have any of that.
Yeah,
I think
no one in that office does at this point.
No, you have to have a team and a development team to do that. I mean, major corporations do that. I worked on the Galleria Mall in Houston, and it's like Simon owns it, and that's a huge national real estate conglomerate. That's who does stuff like this. It's not some jackass with prostitutes and golf in the hallway who does major development. So it's a problem if they don't get the money. So all this long-winded thing is to say the NFL could sort of indirectly kick him out by not helping him with the money.
Well, and that's clearly something that was hinted at in the ESPN story too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I when I read that part of the ESPN story, Steve, I honestly felt like I was reading these owners say, "Hey, Maryland, DC, Virginia, this is the path. Like, just don't give him any money, and he'll be gone eventually."
For some smart, it's just business guy has been saying things like this for 2 years
sure.
now. But
I understand that too. I'm just saying, like, it clearly was like somebody saying, "Here's our playbook, follow it, please."
That's kind of the way that the owners could get rid of him. That's kind of like the back door out. And the other way, like I've been saying for years, is you just send. It's basically, when you have like your wayward cousin who's hooked on drugs and you got to sit him down in the living room with the whole family and go, "You really have to go to rehab. This is an intervention, and we are not leaving this room until you agree to do it because we all love you and we want to see you healthy." That's kind of what they could do to Dan, minus the drugs and all that, of course. But sit him down like 3 or 4 of them, go, "It's just the gig's up, dude. I mean, homie, you got to go."
And besides, how bad do you think the NFL would much rather have a Bezos? I'm not saying he's the best choice here, but a Bezos take over or buy that team in one of their major markets in the NFL.
Can you guys tell me why all these Washington fans are so hooked on Jeff Bezos? Is it because that's a billionaire's name that they know?
Yes.
Him and Elon Musk. That's about it.
Do people realize that Jeff Bezos has a reputation as a very difficult person to work for?
It's not great.
Yeah.
But
it's not. Then again, it just alludes to what you've said in the past before. Anyway, regardless of who you find to buy this team and has enough assets to put together to get this team, I mean, how did they get to that level of riches, anyways? Whether it's Bezos or Elon Musk or somebody, no matter who you put in there. I mean, yeah, Bezos might be the worst of them all, but how many of them have any real true moral high ground to begin with anyway?
So you all have skeletons in the closet. And I think if the NFL was to find a new owner at this point, I think they would move heaven and earth to find a minority. I don't necessarily agree with that because I just don't believe in racial disparities and things, and I think you ought to just ignore racial inequities and treat everybody equally and all that. But I think that the leadership of the NFL would move heaven and earth to put a minority in as the principal owner of a team.
But the only one you could think of with any kind of close to any kind of assets with that would be someone like Jay-Z, and you don't have nearly enough assets to do it.
But there's others.
Think of anyone else.
Yeah.
Well, Robert Johnson would be one.
Right.
And there's others. I mean, I haven't researched this at all. I'm just saying, find a woman, maybe a Walton. Find one of the female Walton. I mean, my point is, I think the NFL would, for the sake of wokeness, move heaven and earth to try to make that happen.
There is talk that the widow Jobs is trying to buy the Nationals, so maybe somebody,
Oh, really?
Yes. Her, I think they're still dating. She's been dating the former mayor of DC, or she was, and now she's thinking of buying the Nationals, which is interesting.
I guess, is she your sugar mama? If you date a billionaire, she instantly become your sugar mama? Is that how it works?
So. I think
no matter who you
even
are.
though Adrian Fenty is, a very smart guy, he has a sugar mama. Yes. That's fine.
There are other billionaires available to date. That's what I would like to know.
Yeah, but she was a young widow, so why not? The Amazon thing, Steve, I think it also stems from the fact that Bezos opened the second Amazon headquarters in Arlington, and he bought the Post. People,
I just don't think people know what he's like, though.
I know. I know what you're saying there. Yeah.
Yeah, he has. Yeah. I know people at Amazon, and Amazon is. All the people at Amazon are miserable. In the Amazon headquarters, it is a very hard place to be.
They have more health and safety violations than I think any other company in the United States.
It doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah. I don't know if that's true.
Well, if you have people peeing in bottles because you won't let them go to the bathroom, it shouldn't shock you.
And the other thing is, when you have a guy that has that many things to do you really think he's going to spend a lot of time in Ashburn?
No, I don't think he cares.
No.
That's a good thing.
Which actually could be a positive. I mean, he wouldn't be around to create an environment like that.
I told you. I mean, in all the times I spent in my team's building, I saw that owner once. That was it. He was never there ever. He just
he had piles of gold to go lay on, like a dragon.
I think if they bring someone like a Bezos in, I think the ownership group, the NFL as a whole, was going to, it's. Let's try to usher in an era that's without what your reputation is, and that means we need to bring in someone of a smaller minority owner to come in. That's an actual minority to be the face of the franchise or something. I don't know how that would work.
Oh, I think this would be a backdoor thing. It wouldn't be like an open. I think the powers that be would subtly move in that direction and try to recruit people.
Right.
Because it's not like you put an ad in the newspaper, team for sale. I mean, these things are done in back rooms and all of that.
Yeah, you basically know they know who their next owner is already. They have a little Rolodex of this guy gets one, then this guy. They have that sitting somewhere.
That has happened in Major League Baseball.
Oh yeah, definitely. By the way, always look at guys who are minority owners of other teams because that's usually a good tip.
That's the first step into the club is that?
Yeah, exactly.
In the NFL.
All right, we could talk about this nonsense for a while.
We have talked about this
but
nonsense for a
let's
while.
also talk about the fact that Carson Wentz broke his finger. I mentioned it briefly. It's funny, before it got announced, the day before, I just did some quick numbers. If Carson Wentz misses 6 games, he doesn't hit the 70% mark, and Washington's second-round pick becomes a third-round pick, what they're giving up to the Colts. What gets announced the next day? Oh, he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks because he fractured his finger. Perfect timing. Just perfect. Make it 7, Carson. Let's just make sure we don't give up that pick. So Heineke's going in, right? I think that's gonna be an interesting thing for people to watch, especially folks like me. I know Taylor Heineke's not the answer, but he is a fun guy to watch. You have to admit, he's a lot more entertaining as a quarterback than Carson Wentz, because he's got the energy. He runs around a lot. He's got plenty of room to run and dig, and that boy's just prospering now. So
I want to hear what Dave thinks. Dave's the one that's written 5 columns on this.
Well, as far as Carson Wentz, I mean, it is what it is. Where he's come to in this season, you push the blame on Wentz, turn or whatever. I mean, I think that argument is done with. I'm not even going down that road. I spoke enough on that, but I think going forward, and I wrote this in the column that I put in, is that there is probably a small window of him actually being our quarterback going into next year. And I say that because if probably the only scenario that I could see him back this year, finishing the year and being potentially back next year, is if Heineke just barely keeps the ship afloat, wins enough games. Ron feels that they're still kind of in the mix, but Heineke is just not getting the team over that hump and just doing what Heineke does. Has one big up for a game and a downer for a game, makes whatever, and then when Wentz is healthy and comes back in, okay, Wentz, here's the ball back to you, finish out the season. If he finishes the season strong, gets him into the playoffs, he's back next year. That's the only road, because if Heineke, say in the next 4 or 5 weeks, wins 4 of those 5 games, or 4-1, and he's strong, playing very well, and they're making a run to a playoff spot, there really isn't a coach I don't think would ever decide, hey, Heineke, I'm going to put you on the bench now. I'm going to bring in Wentz. And if he does that, that's almost sitting there saying, okay, Wentz, I traded for you. I love you. But you know what? It didn't work. There's no way you could bring him back next year.
Incidentally, that's exactly what happened in Philadelphia.
Exactly what happened. Yes. Yes. And then, but if Heineke completely tanks and we lose 4 of the next 5 games, we're basically out of it. I mean, before they go in the next year's draft, they're gonna want to know what they have in Sam Howell. So I could see them turning around to Sam Howell and say, we're going to see what we have in you for the rest of the year. And if they do that, and especially if Howell actually looks pretty good, how can you bring Wentz back next year?
Also, you're not going to bring Wentz back at like 2-9 or whatever. I mean, they'd probably put Howell in at that point. So, but you're right. I think if like a miracle happens and Taylor Heineke goes on a winning streak here and wins like 5 of the next 6 games and they're kind of in it and they're going well, yeah, I think it'd be hard to make a change. But if they're sort of on the outskirts of it, not out, not not totally out of it, not in it, Heineke hadn't looked that great. Wentz is all of a sudden healthy. Yeah, you put him back in. I think you're right. There was kind of a narrow, and you did mention that in your column. There was kind of a narrow window for him where it could work out.
They basically have to go 3-3 or something for Wentz to have a shot.
Yeah.
They have a losing record, but they're not out of it yet. That's honestly, I don't want to see Wentz at that point either.
A typical Washington season, where they're like 1 game under 500, and the fan base is, if we win the next 4 games, they'll be fighting for a wild card, and that position is what would get Wentz back in. I think you're right.
Yeah.
So,
I do think he's getting a bit of a bad rap as a quarterback. I mean, no, the Bears game is just tragic, just awful. But the season, don't forget, started out fairly well. He played well against the Jaguars, and it just kind of went downhill. But they also faced the offensive line went to down the toilet bowl and all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't all his fault.
No.
You can't just blame Wentz and go, geez, we have a bunch of great talent, and if we had something better than this bum, we'd be 6-1. That's or 5-1. That's just not the case.
No.
And you mentioned the offensive line and how poor it's been, which is worse than it was last year. All the fans out there sitting there saying, well, I think Heineke can come in now. He's got better weapons. He'll do better than Wentz is than what Wentz was doing. The problem I have with that statement is that defenses already have a book on Heineke, and they know, well, we'll just take away the intermediate passes. Go ahead and throw it deep all you want.
That is what happened at the end of the year last year.
Exactly what happened. And so for those plays to happen, you need time for those plays to develop. He's not going to have time in that pocket. He's going to be scrambling. He's running. If he's scrambling and run out to his right, he's not going to be able to throw a fly route down the field unless he gets a chance to reset his platform and makes that good throw downfield. He's going to look for a check down all the time to dump it off and try to force something underneath. And that's what you're going to get. You're not going to get a massive improvement. Now, for guys like Terry McLaurin, I think Terry McLaurin fits Heineke much better because, as you pointed out a couple weeks ago, Steve, actually last week, I think that, I'm sorry. I think this was you, Alex, who pointed this out, that McLaurin just is not a downfield receiver. He's a guy you want to get to it in space underneath between 10 to 15 yards and get him on the yak and yards after the catch and so forth. And that's what Heineke does. He does that well, and I think that's the best part of McLaurin's game. And I think we saw with Wentz, most of us thought, well, gee, he can go downfield with McLaurin. It's going to really open up his game. Well, it didn't work out that well, as we saw.
I think that the fan base needs to be cautious about Sam Howell. And the reason I say that is he's just a 5th-round pick. He doesn't have to play at all. 5th-round pick, teams don't draft 5th-round picks to be desperate to play him. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. No, he's a quarterback. He was highly rated at one point. So, right. I mean, it'd be excited about your team and your fan, and the players on the team. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think the coaching staff is just itching to get Sam Howell in at the first opportunity at all. I think they look at him as a potential backup, and that's it. If they looked at him as more, they would have drafted him in like round 3, but they didn't. He is a backup, and let's be honest with ourselves and remind ourselves that he didn't look that great. He had a few fleeting moments here and there, but he didn't look that great in the preseason for the most part. So there's no reason to suspect that Sam Howell can come in and lead the Washington Redskins to the promised land necessarily. Yeah. Especially not the Redskins.
Yeah. And look, I want to see what Howell has at some point, but I am never going to say you should rush.
It's not like he's a 2nd-round pick and know he's going to play.
No, of course not.
And so so there's a reason. Excuse me, my throat was getting dry. There was a reason why Taylor Heineke is. I know everybody. I don't know what the Twitter Illuminati think, but I would assume many of them are up in arms about it. But look, he's the backup. He's a veteran. Is he great? No. But can he hold it together for a few weeks? Absolutely. And Dave's right. I think teams are going to clue in on him and all of that. But what option do they have? Are they really going to throw Sam Howell, the 5th-round pick, to the Wolves?
No. You give that. If you want him to have a chance, you got to give him as much time as possible.
Or you just, when the season's over, there's no pressure. You're 2-10. Who cares? Go out there and play and see what happens.
We should also mention.
Well, unfortunately, you have the Zap rule right now within this fan base, and that's Bailey Zapp. People are looking at Bailey Zapp because there are people out there that are sitting there using that exact same like he's a 5th-round pick. It's not really let him develop all that argument. Well, unfortunately, when Zapp goes out there, throws for 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and has a quarterback rating of 118, and I believe he was a 6th-round pick, 5th or 6th-round pick. Now you have fans going, yeah, okay, well, we can't rush him, and yet Bailey Zapp can go up there in New England and light it up. It's one game. It's one game. But you know how this fan base can be. So now they say, well, if Zap can do it, Hal came in and he's got a better pedigree.
Sure.
He comes with more tools. Of course he's going to succeed. He's going to go out there and he's going to throw for over 300 yards for the next 4 games. Of course he will. But unfortunately,
you can't use Bailey Zapp, the Patriots, and Bill Belichick as an example of anything.
I agree, but unfortunately, you're talking about a fan base that sees one game for one late round quarterback and go, well, we could do the same thing with Hal.
Mm-hmm.
I
mean,
so that's what you have.
You mentioned earlier the offensive line, issues. Let's be honest. A lot of these sacks, some of them are Carson's fault, but like that first sack last week that he took, no quarterback in the world's getting a ball off that quickly.
No.
Like he had 3 people hitting him as the ball was touching his hand from the snap. Mm-hmm. That's just impossible to beat. I don't care who the quarterback is. So, this line is much weaker than it was last year, and Taylor hasn't played behind it in the NFL game. So that's going to be the first thing to watch.
And look, Taylor's a gamer. He's going to run around and do his best, and he's going to make some spectacular plays here and there. But I mean, we know who he is. We've all seen him underthrow people 30 yards down the field dramatically, and that's going to happen again. It will.
Yeah. Now, there was some report. I never followed up on it that apparently he was working. He was doing something in one of those hyperbolic chambers or whatever it is, and he was working on his arm strength, and now he can rifle it downfield. And I'm just like,
wait, don't tell me he's in the best shape of his life.
Yes, that's what he's saying.
Like, come on, people, stop.
Yeah.
And I like Taylor. I can't help but root for him.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. Yeah.
He's fun to watch. I mean, as kind of a neutral observer, I enjoy watching Taylor Heineke play football.
Yeah.
And I think Alex and I harbor a tiny bit of affection for the situation just because Robbie Duncan told us about him a long time ago before anybody knew who he was.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Robbie played with him. He's his friend. So just to put this out there, with Carson Wentz out for a while, the team signed Jake Fromm to be on the practice squad.
I was going to go over that. Yeah, sorry.
Do you have his stats from last year, Steve? They're funny bad.
No, I do not have him right now.
Okay,
I'll get
so
him.
Jake
Give me a
Fromm,
second, I'll get him.
He played for Georgia. So he came with a bit of a pedigree when he was drafted in the 5th round by the Giants, I think it was, or no, the Bills.
Bills.
Yeah, he started 2 games for the New York Giants last year.
Oh my God. I'm looking at his stats now. Sorry.
Game 1, 6 for 17, 25 yards, and an interception. Game 2, he was a little better, 15 for 31, 103 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. So, that's going to solve the problems if we have to go to
He finished the year 27 for 60, 210 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 38.9.
Right. But I've never heard of a guy starting a football game and only getting 25 yards. Like, that's incredible.
And as long as we're talking about this, by the way, they also signed Alex Arma to the practice squad.
Oh, okay.
Who was with Washington over in the offseason. So he's back. So they subbed out a couple offensive linemen for Arma and Fromm.
No, I don't love subbing out offensive linemen. I guess
it was one defensive lineman, Donovan Jeter, and
okay. That makes me feel better.
Christian DeLauro. Yeah, I need to update my chart.
Yeah. You got to get that, big Jake Fromm contract in there.
Yeah. Yes.
So look, we're all going to root for Heineke. I think he's easy to root for, like you said.
Sure.
I don't mind seeing Hal at some point if the team's totally out of it. Week 13, give me Sam Howell if we're 2-11. I don't care at that point. I need a reason to watch.
As a neutral observer, again, I enjoy watching Taylor Heineke play football. I think it'd be fun. And I think basically you guys have it right. If Heineke comes in and does okay, you might see Carson Wentz again. If he really stinks up the joint and they end up in the tank, I think Carson Wentz's finger is going to mysteriously continue to be hurt.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's
Yeah.
what's going to happen.
Sure.
So
Well, yeah.
we got
Well, yeah.
we got to talk
I mean,
about the homecoming game that's coming up this weekend. It's homecoming week. Oh boy, nifty keen guys. So I'll start with this is something the team's doing that I think they're doing it with the best intentions. I'm not going to rag on them for it. They're going to do a dinner for the posse as part of their homecoming coming thing, getting Art Monk, Ricky Sanders, and Gary Clark to have a private dinner with the current Redskins or Commanders receivers. Which, it's not like it's a publicized thing. It doesn't look like it looks like it's a, team only thing. So that's nice. They're also and they also announced that 130 past players are going to be at their homecoming game this week.
What are they going to make these players wear C-word jerseys?
Yes.
I would set it on fire before I did that. I mean, that's just so openly offensive. Let me tell you something. This team doesn't know how to manage PR at all. You're going to bring in a bunch of legends from Redskins glory years, basically,
right?
And a couple older guys from the prior year under George Allen, and you're going to put them in Commanders jerseys. Are you kidding me?
That's my guess.
What an insult. I mean, I wouldn't do it if I were. I
would show up, but I would just wear a
suit.
I wouldn't wear.
I wouldn't show up. I just think it's. And this is Washington, so they're going to totally screw it up. If they can spell London Fletcher's name wrong on at his event, Dave's shaking his head. I mean, it's going to go. It's going to be awful, and they're going to have. You remember, this was last year, the London Fletcher thing. You guys remember what a piss poor ceremony it was?
Yes.
Irrespective of them spelling Fletcher wrong. Mm-hmm. That was also homecoming, if I recall. And they had
they also did the Sean Taylor porta potty thing.
Yeah, and they had this craptacular sign of by decade, and they're like 5 people over in the corner over here from the 90s, and it just the whole thing is going to be a total disaster. But I think that if they make these guys wear Commander stuff, I think there ought to be a rebellion.
There won't be, and I'm not going to pretend to know what they're going to make them wear. It's at least going to be a hat, I'm sure. So, I just assume
I'd rather not go if I was a former player than do that.
Yeah. The other thing, and we talked about this briefly before the show, and Steve got really fired up, is that they're going to, obviously as a nod to the past seat cushion game, they're handing out seat cushions to fans.
I didn't get fired up about it. I just think it's stupid.
Yeah. Well,
mainly.
I mean, you take it personal. You were at the seat cushion game.
Well, no, I wasn't at that game.
Oh, I thought you said you've always.
No, I wasn't at that game. That game was in the '87 year, was it not? I didn't have tickets in.
I thought you always said you were at the seat cushion game.
No. I wasn't at the seat cushion game. That wasn't the last year of the glory years. I had season tickets was the '82 season.
Oh, okay.
And I had them later, but
right
in FedEx later.
Gotcha.
So I was not a seat cushion game, but I was more fired up about the homecoming stuff than I was the seat cushion. I think is stupid. And my point was, they're not going to attract any more fans to the seat cushion game. They're going to have they're going to be giving seat cushions, Redskin or Washington seat cushions to Packer fans. Is what they're going to be doing. Who are going to throw them on the field? All my point was how much does it cost to order 20,000 seat cushions, and what is your increased revenue going to be from increased ticket sales based on somebody's going to go, you know what, we're going to go to the Washington game. Why? Because they're going to give me a seat cushion.
Yeah.
We skipped every other game but we're going to join the 5 people that have been there this year because we're going to get a seat cushion. So you're going to give seat cushions because you have to give them like the first 20,000 fans in the door or whatever.
Usually.
It's going to be Packers fans.
Yeah.
Packers fans travel well.
Right. They do. The more I think about, the worse of a gift it is.
Yeah, I was just more amused by the seat cushion thing. I was fired up about the homecoming thing.
I know it's not a football thing, but can't we just do bobbleheads? Everyone loves bobbleheads. Like, no, you never see the NFL do bobbleheads for some reason anymore.
It's kind of a baseball thing, it seems like.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
It's somewhat hockey a little bit.
Yeah, hockey's gotten into it.
Yeah. Now, as far as a seat cushion game, that was on a divisional game against the Falcons. I thought it was early 90s. It was 92.
Oh, it was
A seat cushion.
92? Okay.
It was
I thought
that
it was
late? I didn't
87.
realize that.
Yes. Yeah, it was the divisional game on July 4th against the Falcons. On their
I
way.
did not
to-
live in the DC area in 1992.
January 4th, I assume you mean.
Yeah, January 4th. Yes.
You said July 4th, which would be an interesting day for a football game.
Hey.
July 4th?
I probably rewatched it July 4th of this past year. This would probably
Trying to relive the good times.
Trust me, I told you half the things I've done in terms of YouTube and for the past team here. People think I'd probably should be,
Hey, Dave, our NFL Game Pass goes back some number of years. I don't know how far it goes back. You may be able to entertain yourself that way.
I don't think it goes back that far. It does maybe do highlights or like the
I don't know,
like the 30 for 30 type of stuff or whatever.
By the way, am I alone? I would pay for NFL thing that like literally as early as you could get me video from old games. Like I don't know, the 50s probably is the earliest you could possibly
live in the past at all times.
I would love to watch like 1950s football because I wasn't alive for it. So it'd be interesting to see how different the game is. All right, so
you'd have to ask Nolan from Tampa how that was.
Yeah. Well, he can tell me about Sammy Baugh and how, what Sammy Baugh was like when he was 14.
I'm just teasing, but he is older than all the rest of us.
Yes, he is.
But real quick, though, as far as the homecoming ordeal with the posse and everything, it just kind of goes back to what we talked about in the offseason. That I think this whole thing of trying to merge the past with the present,
right?
It's
just not working. I think we all agreed on that earlier in the year, and it's gotten to the point to where it's time just to let the past be the past, create a new identity, and move forward. That's exactly what I did. So I think I'm sorry, but you cannot put any past players, like Steve said, in that jersey they have right now. You cannot do that. I saw someone buy a Sean Taylor jersey. Yes, that's exactly. I saw someone posted on Twitter a Sean Taylor jersey with the Commanders on it.
You guys think I'm negative now? Just wait till I see that. Wait till I see Ricky Sanders in a Commanders jersey. Then you see what happens.
Yeah, that's. I mean, if they're in the jersey, it's going to be really bad to me. Like,
right.
I can maybe stomach the hat, like I said.
I'm gonna have to call Ricky back and get him back on here just to berate him for wearing a Commanders jersey.
Yeah. You bring up a good point right there. Is that I'd probably be more upset if these past players were willing to come in, or more willing to come in with the Commanders jersey as opposed with the Redskins jersey. They should simply we'll come to the alumni dinner, but we're coming
Redskins jerseys.
We're coming in our Redskins gear, and that's it.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you remember what John Reagan said when they were going to try and make jerseys of the new name
Ringo
now,
did say that. Yeah,
he said, "Oh, no way, no." It's like my name will not go on anything but a Redskins jersey. I was a Redskin, period, and that's who I am.
Whoever did the Sean, so is that a fan that made the Sean Taylor
you can buy
jersey?
those on Fanatics.
No, you can buy them on a team store.
That's just
You can
sell the throwback.
All one like that. You can do whatever you want.
It's disrespectful. I mean, it really.
Yeah.
That's
there's a reason I went with a current player when I was like, all right, let me buy one.
I'm disappointed you bought any of them, Alex. I'm not rubbing off on you enough, clearly.
Oh, I got a number 5 jersey too, but that's the McNabb one because my brother-in-law thought it'd be funny after the trade to buy me a McNabb Redskins jersey.
I had a McNabb Redskin, not a jersey, but like a shirt.
Yeah.
I've never really been into the jerseys. I just can't. I'm not enough of a sycophant to really do that, and I'm not gonna wear a jersey from someone who's like 15 years younger than me. I'm just not gonna do it.
I own 3 jerseys, and
I think I have a Darryl Green one. That's it. I think that's the only one I have.
I
had a LeVar Arrington at one point in time.
I have a couple
Chris
jerseys.
Cooley, I've got this one from Trustway, and I have a Jay Gruden Arena football jersey. That's it.
Yeah, I have a couple, but the one that I cherish the most was the one that my wife had got me for my birthday. Was the at that time it was one of their practice style jerseys and was Darryl Green, and that's the one I wore on game day all the time. That's the only one I really ever truly wore. But she knew it was my favorite player, and instead of buying the regular game day jerseys, this one, it was with the letter imprint. It wasn't stitched on, and
Right.
it was the regular practice jerseys. And it's a really nice jersey. And that's my go-to. That's my primary one.
Let's talk about the Packers. We haven't talked about the Packers.
Yeah, we should talk about the Packers. They just got a surprise loss to the Jets. Let's be honest. And, I don't think anyone had them getting their clocks cleaned a little by New York like that. Lost by 17 points. They've been up and down this year. Green Bay, I mean, look, Aaron Rodgers is hurt or hurting, they're saying. I was listening to sports radio, and they were saying that there's talk that Rodgers might even need to sit for a while because he's so banged up. Nothing major, but like he's an old man. Let's be honest. Like that's part of it too.
Allow me to burst everyone's bubble about Washington having a shot at this game.
No. I'm not saying they haven't a shot. Who's saying it's a shot?
Not you, but the fans out there, because they're 3-3. But does anybody realize who they've played?
Yeah, they played a pretty good schedule.
The Jets are 4-2.
Right.
The Giants 5-1.
Mm-hmm.
The Patriots are always tough, and they won that game in overtime. The Tom Brady's,
right?
The Tampa Bay Tom Brady's, they lost. They got smoked by the Vikings in Week 1. The Vikings have talent. The only pushover they've really had is the Bears.
Right.
And they won that game. All the rest of these games have been, the games they lost were to the Vikings, the Giants, and the Jets. I mean, those are 3 quality teams. And Aaron Rodgers hasn't seemed to start very well in the past couple of years. I almost kind of give him a pass in terms of expectations in Week 1 for that reason. So I just and if you look at their stats and stuff.
I'm actually looking at them right now. You know what stands out to me right away looking at their stats?
What?
We're going into Week 7. Aaron Rodgers has yet to have a 300-yard passing game. What
stood out to me about the Packers is that Aaron Jones is averaging almost 6 yards a carry.
Yeah, their run game's been strong.
They haven't had a good run game in the past. This year they do.
No, yeah.
And they actually have a double-headed monster with A.J. Dillon, too.
They do. You're right.
Yes.
They do. And A.J. Dillon hasn't been as successful, but it's still a 2-headed monster,
right.
Right.
And what is Washington bad at? Run defense.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, everything. But, I mean, they're giving up 4.7 yards per carry.
Mm-hmm.
So is it possible? I think Aaron Rodgers is too arrogant to ever do this, but is it possible that you kind of minimize Aaron Rodgers and go with a running game against a team that hadn't been good against the run? Here's the other key, though. You want my keys to the game? Beyond the obvious, which is Taylor Heineke needs to play well. I mean, that's, coming in.
Right.
But in terms of defense, their secondary scheme needs to be smart. The announcers did a good job last week of pointing out against the Bears how the secondary left underneath availability for a mobile quarterback like Justin Fields. Had he been better, he would have been able to take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a smart scheme against Aaron Rodgers, he will kill you. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the game. And so I think that a really major key is you can't have secondary breakdowns. You can't get out there and William Jackson it, to turn that guy into a verb. You can't William Jackson it. I think that is a huge key, because if you let Aaron Rodgers have an open field, boy, it's over,
Right. Now, counter to, some of what you're talking about, if you look at their numbers overall, they're pretty consistently, they let a lot of rushing yardage up too.
Oh, they're terrible against the run.
Every team has gotten well over 100 yards except for Tampa Bay, who just didn't know. Tampa's also kind of a mess this year, let's be honest.
It is. The Green Bay's defense is giving up 4.9 yards. Right, they're worse than Washington.
Right. They're and the difference, I think, if you look at their rushing game versus their rush defense, their rushing attack has had 3 really good games. Their defense has been consistently bad week in, week out. So, trend wise, this should be a pretty good day for Washington's 2-headed rushing attack, 3-headed, however many heads we want to put on this running team. So,
Just because they have 3 guys that can carry a ball does not mean they have a 3-headed rushing attack.
No,
Alex.
I know.
got news
I know.
for you.
Yeah. It's but Robinson and
They have about
Gibson, sure.
They have about maybe a 3/4 rushing attack. Instead of a dual-headed monster, they collectively got about 3/4 of a guy.
Yeah, well, part of that's also on a coach who just doesn't want to run the ball.
Exactly.
It doesn't help that our offensive coordinator seems to just think of runs like he thinks of girls. They're icky.
How do you know he doesn't just love? Maybe he's a womanizer. You don't know that.
I don't know that.
Well, when you look at Green Bay,
I will give you something. Sorry, Dave. I'll give you one thing to abuse you that notion though. Washington has had 143 rushing attempts this year, which is tied for 20th. So it's not a lot, but it's also not really, really, really. It's not like way at the bottom either.
How many passing attempts because at one point I think Carson Wentz was leading the league in passing attempts until last week.
You want to know how many pass attempts we have?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean we. My apologies.
Yes.
Washington. Okay, so pass attempts. They are 7th in the NFL in pass attempts at 232.
Okay. So it's a 2-to-1-ish ratio.
It's a pass-heavy team, but it's not dramatically off the charts. And their running game has been horrid for most of the year.
Right.
Remember that.
So it's the passing game. It's all been just
the whole offense has been horrid. Yeah, granted.
All right, Dave, we've interrupted you like 14 times.
Well, I will say this. I think Heineke actually kind of improves the chances. And I say it like this because at least with Heineke, I think Scott Turner will involve the running game a little bit more.
Sure.
Because of being Heineke. Heineke really needs that running game. He can't go downfield. Turner did run the ball with Heineke, so they'll take a little advantage of that, I think. Mm-hmm. Because as far as like their rush defense, they're ranked number 6 in sacks. They're ranked 7th in total points allowed.
Right.
And for pressures on the quarterbacks, I think they're ranked among the top 3 in the league. I mean, they have a ferocious pass rush against our interior of the line that stands no chance against it. About the only thing we have to combat it is Heineke's mobility. But the only problem with that is that over their overall pass defense, their corners, if I'm correct, their corners have played very well together.
They have.
And they're not going to give anything up deep. Or I'm sure and they're going to force Heineke to go deep. Because as we talked about earlier, Heineke can't go deep. So they're going to take away the intermediate. They're going to use that rush to flush him out of the pocket. And even if you use the running game, the Packers aren't going to be sitting back in a soft zone and pushing people back to protect anything like the deep quarters of the field. That's not going to happen in this game because of Heineke. So they're going to have a lot of men up in the box. So even though they haven't done well against the rush all year, they're going to have an extra body, maybe even 2, in the box to help stop and contain the run anyway for a running game that's mediocre anyway to begin with. So although while Heineke does present a better chance only because of his mobility and getting away from that pass rush, I mean, you're talking about a half a percent more of an opportunity to win the game. So I give them about a 0.5% chance to win the game, basically.
I mean, it's really like it's different rather than it's really better,
Right. So, but and like you mentioned, Scott Turner, he's just not going to really want to dedicate to the run. He's going to try to find ways for Heineke to get the ball, to push the ball downfield, to try to get something at least beyond 10 yards or something. And our offensive line can't. I mean, you can roll the pocket all day long. But when you roll the pocket, you're taking away 1/3 of the field every time. Mm-hmm. So now the defense just rolls with you, So it's just so you're limiting your passing attack that way anyway, because you're not going to sit Heineke in the pocket. He's not going to have no time. And with him being shorter than Wentz, he's not. The passing lanes are going to be all shut down, so he's not going to be able to even have passing lanes throwing through. So it's like I just don't see a path to winning this game, even if Rodgers is hurt and he can't even throw the ball, whatever. Or even if they decide, hey, you know what, we're going to sit you, we're going to play Jordan Love. I still think that gives them an advantage to win the game anyway. So
if you ask me, I think the Packers are going to be ticked off and embarrassed because they got handled by the Jets.
And this will be their get well game this weekend.
That's right.
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers has a bit of a bad attitude, in case those of you who have been asleep for the past 10 years. And I don't think he takes stuff like that lightly. And yeah, I think it's a good well game. This could be a blowout.
I don't think could be. I think it will be.
Will be.
Yeah,
it will.
All right,
be.
so do we want to do scores? We're
Sure.
about at that time.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I'll go first this time. Since
yes.
it's
Who's going to outblow out the most?
I'm going to say 30-10.
30
Packers.
to 10.
Yeah.
I'll go. You know what? I'll go a little higher than that. I'll go about 34-7.
Oh wow.
34-7.
34-7. We're not going to move the ball. I think we get in their territory maybe 3 times all game, and Joey Slough will miss a field goal attempt.
The line was only 5.5 a day ago.
Yeah. So just to keep the trend going, I'm going to blow out both of you.
Oh wow.
I'm going to go 37-6.
Yuck.
Nice. Now, is that a missed extra point, or is that 2 field goals?
2 field goals. 2
There
field
you go.
goals.
All right.
Did everybody see that Dustin Hopkins won the?
Yeah.
Huh?
Dustin
What?
Hopkins always had a bad rap here. You and I, Steve, I think we were probably his biggest supporters in the entire fan base at that time.
I always liked him, for his play on the field, and
Yeah.
His stats were a lot better than people thought, and
Yep.
I think that Washington would have been better off with him than without him, and he won the game in overtime this past.
Who was
Monday
it that we
night.
replaced him? Was it Chris Blewett that we had for a couple?
Yeah,
coffee?
it was Blewett.
Yeah, it was Blewett after him. Yeah.
Yeah. That was such a
Blewett,
bad
which
move.
ended up with Joey Sly, and then Brian
Yeah.
Johnson from AC/DC was thereafter, and then Sly came back.
Yep.
I mean, Sly, does have a monster leg.
okay.
It's just that
He's okay.
accuracy, man, is just horrible.
We've only seen him
okay.
kick 2 field goals this year now, so I can't say he's horrible at this point.
Oh, he's
because he hasn't.
Well,
done
I'm just saying, once you get him, I believe when you get him beyond 40 yards, I think his accuracy doesn't it take a pretty significant dip.
Yeah.
But
So
it wasn't
I mean-
bad. Are you talking about Hopkins or Sly?
Sly.
Fly.
Oh yeah, if you guys want to dig it up, you can Google this, because I did a whole analysis of all of this last year. So I can't remember what the numbers are, but it's out there if you guys want to look it up. And if you want to know, so last year, Hopkins finished total between Washington and the Chargers at 88%. Was
Right.
30 of 34. And this year so far, he is 9 for 10. That's Hopkins. So did Washington lose by bringing in Joey Sly? Not really lose. Did they gain really anything? No, not really.
Not really yet. No.
And Hopkins is a career 85% field goal kicker, which is very, very good. It's about the second best in Washington history.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. All right. Well, that should wrap us up for this week, guys. I think we've
It was
we've
a heck
done
of a
enough.
show, Alex.
Yeah. Okay, guys. We will talk to you all next week after the Green Bay loss. I think we're all just gonna say the Green Bay loss. And have a Obada day. I'm just gonna say it that way.
Take it easy.
Bye.
I was thinking Baba O'Reilly by The Who. That was what my joke was about.